Hey guys, Dr. Mike Israel here for Renaissance Periodization and Juggernaut Training Systems, continuing our hypertrophy guides with side/rear delt hypertrophy. First of all, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Not myself, interestingly enough, or Chad Wesley Smith sitting behind the camera. The elephant in the room is, why the heck are we doing two muscles at the same time? That's because a lot of exercises like upright rows, various bent laterals, train both rear delts and side delts really well. And also because the approach to training those muscles, they're small muscles of the shoulder. A lot of times they're not visually apparent when you're training them. Like you can look at your chest, look at your biceps when you're training them. You can kind of see your side delts, definitely can't see your rear delts much. So a lot of really common principles between the two, and a lot of the ways we structure training similar, so we just threw them into one guide for you. Volume is up first. Maintenance volume for rear delts and side delts is between 0 and 6 sets per week. If you do plenty of pulling movements, just the normal amount, maintenance volume for rear delts is almost always really close to 0 sets per week. Why? Because every time you do a pull-up, every time you do a row, you hit your rear delts really well, right? So it's good enough to maintain them, not quite good enough to make them grow in a lot of cases. However, the maintenance volume for side delts, because they really don't get hit too hard in anything other than maybe shoulder pressing, and I would say upright rowing is already an exercise dedicated to side delts, most pushing and pulling movements, because the side delts are here and their job is to bring the arm up like this, not necessarily push it forward or backward, 6 sets per week is around the maintenance volume for side delts. So if you want your side delts to remain the same size, you gotta do some, maybe compound or isolation, but you gotta do some focus work on the side delts, something that brings the arm up. Minimum effective volume, the least amount of volume it takes to grow body parts, 6 to 8 sets per week on average to make the side delts and rear delts grow. You can try train them less than that, but first of all, they're super easy to train. It's just not a large muscle group. It doesn't fatigue you a lot. And also, they are pretty fatigue resistant. They take some serious work to get to growing. On that note, we'll take MAV after this. Maximum recoverable volume, the most volume you can do and still recover and benefit, is I've said about 26 sets per week for side delts and for rear delts. That's a lot, right? Why is that so much? Because these muscles of the shoulder, they're not in a position where they take a lot of damage from training. So they're basically not going to be stretched under load to an excessive amount. The weights you can use for them, because of the structure of a shoulder joint, aren't super hard. So basically, when you say I'm doing a set for quads, a good set for quads is a leg press, hack squat, squat. That's damaging stuff. That impedes recovery quite a bit. But a set for side delts is like a lateral raise. And that's just not going to do a whole lot of damage. So you can recover from more of it, so you can do more of it and still hypothetically benefit. Between MEV and MRV is maximum adaptive volume. On average, that figure lies between about 16 and 22 sets. Remember, for all of these values, there's a huge range and individual difference is key. So only with experimentation and tracking your progress can you find out what your volume landmarks are for side and rear delts. Intensity, very similar to biceps. Any less than 8 reps per set, or a weight that's heavy enough to where you can't do at least 8, is going to be a lot of endangering the shoulder joint, especially with side raises or something like that. And more particularly, and we'll get to this a little bit in the technique execution, especially for the rear delts, if you go really heavy in something like a face pull with a barbell, what ends up happening is you can no longer really feel the rear delts. And when you can't feel them, a lot of times other muscles, and there's plenty of pulling muscles that are to do the job, including your forearm flexors, they start to take over and it's not really rear delt work anymore. So delt work, almost by definition, side and rear delt, is gonna be at least 8 reps per set, all the way up to 20 reps per set for normal volume training, not metabolite techniques, works really well. High reps work pretty well for the delts because a lot of times side and rear delts are relatively slow twitch muscles because they're designed to always be doing stuff. Whenever you reach for anything, whenever you move your arms, they're always on to some extent. And a lot of times they don't really feel much of the heavy work and they have to be trained at an average of a higher rep range. Now, does it mean you have to do only 8 or only 20? No, you do a broad spectrum of training through that whole range. Let's talk about exercises. For rear delts, just some examples. A barbell face pull, what the heck is that? That's exactly the same setup as a bent over barbell row. Instead of pulling it to your tummy, you pull it to your eyes or the bridge of your nose, right? And you can even pause at the top. That kicks the rear delts like crazy. You can do a dumbbell version of that. You can do a cable version of that. And you can, of course, do the dumbbell rear lateral raise, bent over. There's machine versions and stuff too. I'll tell you this. If it's a rear delt training, you're gonna have to feel it in your rear delts. Mind-muscle connection is just a small piece of the hypertrophy puzzle, In muscles like this, it's probably a more important piece. Look, if you squat deep, you squat a lot of weight for a lot of reps, you're gonna get big quads, whether or not you're connected to them in your brain. Mind-muscle connection has been shown to be effective, but it's probably really effective for muscles like the rear and side delts, which if you just brutally just do it and you don't feel anything, a lot of other muscles are gonna take over. So make sure you do these with really good technique, no swinging, keep the weight nice and manageable so that you can actually feel the muscle working. For side delts, upright rows are awesome. They're safe to do. If you have shoulder pain from them, don't do them. If a certain grip gives you shoulder pain and another grip doesn't, use the grip that doesn't. So make sure you're not just creaking your shoulders and they sound like an old, like broken house that you're walking through. You're like, it's okay. I'm just trying to grow. Who cares? You've got to value shoulder joints. Don't do anything that hurts. A lot of folks can do upright rows and benefit a ton. Some folks can't. Usually upright rows, you pull all the way up to, just over your sternum, maybe your clavicle area. If you can pull up to your eyes or even higher with no pain or symptoms, great. It gives your shoulders a more full range of motion workout. If you can't without pain or discomfort, don't do that. Side lateral raises, pretty straightforward. You can do thumbs down side lateral raises to hit a little bit of the side delt and rear delt at the same time, and a variety of other exercises. Technique considerations here. Remember, the side and rear delts are not big muscles. You are not supposed to lift a ton of weight in those muscles relative to the other exercises that you do. You'll never do side delts with as much as you chest press. It's just not gonna happen. And if you are in the gym to impress other people, first of all, you're in the gym for the wrong reason, but if you really insist, do some squats, do some shoulder presses, do some bench presses, deadlifts, stuff that lifts a lot of weight, meaningfully affecting hypertrophy. For these exercises, for everything for rear delt and side delt, you don't use a ton of weight. That's not the point. Should you be getting strong over time? Yes, but only with really good technique, no swinging, and it's so easy to swing at a couple extra reps, it's almost never worth it. If you want to do extra reps, just pause, rest, and then do another set. You'll get just the same volume targeted to the muscles you need and not fatiguing the muscles that you don't. As far as variation, we have all the classical variations. You can vary your exercise when things become stale. You can do loading variations, training some of your exercises or some days of the week a little bit closer to the 8 rep range, some closer to the 15 to 20 rep range. That's a way to do things. And then of course there's volume/relative intensity. So on one day, you can do lots of volume, maybe 6 sets for side delts and rear delts. On another day, when you have to take a little bit of an easier day because you have hard days coming up later, you can do 3 sets, or you can cut your reps a little bit closer or a little bit further away from failure than usual just to give yourself enough recovery. So there's lots of variation there. Remember, never ever sacrifice range of motion. A lot of individuals will start to play around and be like, well, I've got this variation where I just like sort of lift right here to here, and sure, it'll pad your ego and you'll seem intellectual, but if you take something through a full range of motion safely, it almost always gives you the best growth for many reasons, because stretch under load is a big hypertrophy indicator or a factor. But another one is there are fibers in your muscles, parts of your muscle, that if you do this with dumbbells, they simply don't ever turn on, and thus they don't get the benefit. When you do a full range of motion with delts, which over at or over 90 degrees, again, whatever your shoulders can handle, then almost all of the fibers start to become active. So don't shortchange yourself. Frequency, very similar to biceps, rear and side delts. Recover really fast and never really get exposed to a ton of damage. That means that you can train them at least twice a week. Shoulder day should just be written off of bodybuilding history books, more or less. What the hell does that even mean? First of all, the front delts, we did another guide on that, right? Because they operate under completely different training rules than the rear and side delts, but the rear and side delts heal so quickly, you can almost certainly, even if you have huge ones that get really tired, train them 2 times a week. Most people can benefit from training them 3 to 4 times a week and even more. So give that some thought. If you're having trouble growing rear and side delts and you currently have a shoulder day, try splitting them up into more days. You might see that you are stronger on those days because you don't do, after you've done 10 sets of rear delts, everything after that is pretty much junk volume. You're too weak to really do anything to affect growth. Maybe if you split that up, that 20 sets from one day into 3 days and do an average of 7 per day, you're gonna be strong all those days. You're gonna have more muscle growth over the long run. Periodization, our standard model here, just a way to do things, not the way. Heavy work, maybe anywhere from 8 to 12 reps for a couple of months. For a couple of months, moderate, anywhere from 10 to 16, 10 to 18 reps or something. Metabolite work, drop sets, supersets, stuff like that. And then a month or 2 of low volume work to sort of cool the jets, get some good recovery, resensitize the muscles to hypertrophy to come back through that cycle afterwards. As far as special metabolite techniques, we can try a couple of them. One are giant sets, also called marathon sets sometimes. That's when you say, okay, I have 80 reps to do with side lateral raises and only 30 seconds rest between sets. So you do as many as you can, maybe get 22, put the dumbbells down, time yourself 30 seconds, do another 8, that's 30 so far, add up the 30-second rest breaks until you get to 80 total reps. That's a good way to do things, and maybe over the week you can add 5 reps, add 5 reps, add 5 reps. Drop sets are really good. Drop sets for shoulders work pretty well. One small problem, you can do them on upright rows pretty well, because like cable upright rows, you can do a drop set no problem. You can do drop sets with dumbbells, lateral raises and rear lats and stuff, but a big problem with that is that now you're that asshole in front of the rack using all the fucking dumbbells. So maybe, limit your drop set to 3 weights, and then just so get yourself 3 dumbbells, so 3 sets, not 8. And then, for example, do as many as you can with the 20s, put them down. As many as you can with the 15s, put them down. As many as you can with the 10s, put them down. Rest 2 minutes, and then go 20, 15, 10 again, maybe 2 or 3 times. That's a good drop set instead of literally doing a rack run. Rack runs are cool if you have your own gym or it's a very empty gym, but when there's busy gym, a lot of people around, I don't know, if you want to be fighting that old lady with the 2.5 for the 2.5, maybe, and then, hey, give her what's coming. So, lastly, supersets. Super, super awesome technique for shoulders. Basically, the best kind of superset, I think, is when you combine an isolation move to a compound move. For example, you do as many lateral raises as you can, or 1 or 2 from fail, you put the dumbbells down, you already have upright rows preloaded, you take the barbell and do as many upright rows as you can. Your upright rows are usually powered by your forearm flexors, traps, a bunch of other muscles, and your side delts. Now that you've done side lateral raises to pre-fatigue them, your limiting factor for the metabolite stuff is really going to be the side delts, even in the upright row. So it's really, really good training. Here's a special cool one that I like to do every now and again. I wouldn't do this super often, but every now and again to throw in there. Here's a cool superset you can do. It's actually a triple superset. You do as many bent lateral raises as you can. You obviously be further bent over. I'm going to get off camera if I do that. So pinky up, bent lateral raise, stand up straight, no rest, as many regular lateral raises as you can, couple breaths, and then as many dumbbell upright rows as you can. Brutal. Will fry both your side and rear delts, get you a ton of great growth. Do that for a couple of weeks. When you get fatigued of that, when it gets resistant to growth, take a low volume phase, come back, stick with the basics. Always good techniques. Try some higher frequency, and I'll see you next time with bigger delts.